the scene has really grown, and I think Louisville has embraced it. I mean, I say that, and I don't own a brewery. I haven't worked at a brewery in years. I've only been on the consumer side, and the side of like buying your product and turning it into diabetes. Yeah. Shout out Wilford Brimley, but. In my old Kentucky home. Kentucky.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Kentucky Commons Podcast. I am Michael Moeller, joined tonight by one John Renane.
Hello.
And David Satterley.
Hello.
We are at Brewgrass Homebrew Supply in Louisville, Kentucky, joined by also one Russ Meredith, founder of the Beer Syrup Company. Russ, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
We are going to have a very visual episode, I feel like, tonight. And we don't want to, give you too many spoilers. But if you're listening to this, thank you for listening. We also would encourage you to go over to our Spotify channel at Louisville Ale Trail. Check us out, subscribe, rate, listen, share, do all those cool things because it really does help us. And just kind of promote the message of, what we're trying to talk about every week. And if you find us entertaining, chances are you have friends that find us entertaining as well. And you're going to want to see the visuals of this episode. Trust me.
No teasers until it's time.
Usually we start off the show with a little bit of a beer share, but you were kind enough for us to go ahead and make some cocktails for us. So before you kind of give an intro about Beer Syrup Company and yourself, can you tell us just the cocktails that you just poured?
Yeah, absolutely. So I made a chocolate porter old fashioned with some Woodford Reserve bourbon and some cherry bark vanilla bitters from Bitter Cube and a little orange expression as garnish.
Do you recommend we do a twist or did you
I've already twisted.
All right.
Yeah.
I should have never second guessed.
He was expressed.
I should have never second guessed. Yeah, it's been expressed already.
Let the man express
himself.
Well, cheers, guys. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very, very much.
Right.
Very excited to talk.
Taste this a little bit.
I smell the little peanuts hiding in there somewhere. The main aroma that I got was from that orange at first, and then there's bourbon behind it. But there's peanuts in there somewhere.
That's a Woodford, right?
It might also just be the bitters and the way that they react with the chocolate porter and everything that's going on. There's a lot of flavor going on.
It's a strong cherry finish on my end. What I'm getting out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Which has got to be better than that maraschino bullshit that people put in it a lot of times.
Ooh, that's so good.
The hyper reds.
Yeah.
That's great. That's gonna
cherry kind of graham crackery. I almost think like I'm getting a nutty toffee thing in there somewhere, but I think that is probably the blend of the caramel from the bourbon with like the darker elements of the roasted grain.
Yep.
And that's delightful, man.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
It's going to be something fun to sip on here for a while. So, Beer Syrup Company.
Yes, sir.
Founded in 2014.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about it.
All right. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen.
Years ago, working as a bartender, I was trying to create a cocktail menu for Simply Thai here in St. Matthews. And I was trying to use the Wessex lemongrass wheat beer in order to make a lemongrass sweet mojito. And I started playing around with it. And the lemongrass flavor, while drinking the beer on its own, was very faint. And it was a really nice flavored beer, right? But when you cook it down, a lot of that flavor gets lost. And I really wanted more lemongrass flavor in there. And so I had to scrap that idea, but I kept playing with different beers and making syrups. And I had a couple entrepreneur friends who just kind of got behind me and pushed me off the cliff and said, just make it and go sell it. Just who cares? Just do it.
So
right?
what is beer syrup?
So it is a non-alcoholic. The way that I make it is non-alcoholic substitute for any liquid sweetener, whether it's agave, honey, maple, any flavored simple syrup. So it goes into all kinds of coffee drinks, cocktails, a lot of food recipes, obviously, as you may find out today. But it was a long process of me figuring out how to reduce the alcohol down to less than 1%, and then making that into a simple syrup that everybody could actually consume.
And instead of like the other ingredients you were talking about, a lot of sweeteners and flavor additives and stuff are based on, honey or beet sugar or cane sugar or, corn sugar, obviously, or high fructose, blah, 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 blah. Yours is pretty much all based on cereal grains, barley probably being dominant, but then also some wheat, some rye, some oats. You base it all off on like actual beer recipes, right?
Yep. So the idea is that you can reduce a beer down, add sugar, make a syrup with it, but not all beers are created equal. As you know, there's a lot of adjuncts that are used. And when you cook those down, they all come out very differently. And then when you get into Belgians, of course, with their very specific yeast strains, those things, when you cook them down, they're very flavorful. And like I said, the idea is that, yes, reducing the beer down should be able to concentrate that flavor. But I've played with a lot of different ones, and I've found a few that work really, really well, and I've continued to use them.
Yeah, what were the worst ones? Because you sound like you've been through the ringer of like trying these out, and I have a few ideas, but I want to hear.
Well, I will say that your Bud Lights,
Go figure,
right? They do not. You basically just get that, not necessarily rice flavor, but it is.
I was going to say piss, but
yeah, I mean, but yeah. So outside of those, I could sit here and go on for a while, but
I can't imagine like a Goza would make a good beer syrup.
Yeah, I've tried that, and I end up adding additional like coriander and everything else just to kind of like up the flavor a little bit. Once again, not every Goza is created equal. Some have a very strong flavor that kind of draws out. I mean, you would think also like pumpkin beers would do really well, but a lot of those spices end up turning, and it's very bitter, and it's almost
burnt.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily enjoyable. The one that does do well, I will say, is the Schlafly Pumpkin Ale, which is
really,
it's very well balanced, and I tend to use that one in the fall a little bit at home. I haven't ever released one, but yeah.
What about hops? Because I can get to say I've tried cooking with hoppy beers before, and I've always kind of had the same thing with like the spices you're saying. Do you have like a technique for kind of keeping the hoppy flavor? Do you do much with hoppy beers, or do you stick towards the maltier stuff?
No, actually, I've experimented with a lot of IPAs, and what it comes down to is you want something that's a little bit more light and floral in order for that hop character to still kind of come through, but not get overly saturated in that flavor profile. And it just, we did a 5-course meal event with Tony Boombah's Pizza and Against the Grain years ago. And we actually made an IPA out of their pile of face. We made an IPA syrup out of the pile of face, and did that on top of a chorizo and peppadew with goat cheese pizza as a drizzle. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was really tasty. But once again, that's another style of beer that the majority of them just, especially with now the way IPAs are made, I mean, it's almost too much. So
I would think it would be a good accent to like a strong cocktail, though, especially like if you are that hop head, if you like that strong bitter flavor, like just a few little drops, I think could like push that flavor, because people like Amaros and stuff like that. I do too. I don't see where it could go wrong. But now you have my wheels turning.
And you said it was porter base in this one, right?
This is a chocolate porter.
So I absolutely get that coming through, and I'm sure it's like it's not half beer syrup. I'm sure it's a little bit subtly added in here, but it absolutely comes through. Just like kind of David was saying, it's like, and I get that like toasty, nutty. It really, really, really works. And I will say too, in addition to all those other sugars we were talking about, malt sugar is like so much better in terms of how like it tastes. So the best example would be if you've ever had like a milkshake versus a malt, might be something a lot of people are familiar with.
Yes.
Just how much different that flavor is. It's so much more like warm and like biscuity, and like I don't even know how to describe it.
Well, since you said
that.
biscuit.
Oh yeah, good, excellent segue, David Satterley.
I'm looking at this plate in front of me. It looks like some brie and some bread, and what's that on top there?
That is a bourbon barrel stout onion bacon jam.
So we should say that in addition to being an excellent beer syrup maker, cocktail maker, you're also, I'll say it, a goddamn fine chef, sir.
Well,
thank you for saying that, John.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Nobody else was going to say that. So.
I'm not going to claim that 4-letter word. I did buy a chef jacket from Shaheen's, and I got it embroidered. So, yeah, sure, I'm a chef, right?
Is that what you're wearing tonight? No. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. But no, so this is actually spent grain crackers with a makeshift wort, like a bourbon barrel stout style wort, that I actually came into the shop yesterday here at Brewgrass and picked up the grain, made the wort, and then made these spent grain crackers.
Dude, the crackers taste amazing.
Well, I'm glad.
It's like toasty. It's like a cracker. It's got the crunch in it, but it's also so dense.
Good.
Yeah. So I do remember you came in and you were like, "Hey, just let's like do a little grain bill for essentially like you wanted kind of like a barrel aged imperial stout, just something kind of robust and malty."
Yeah.
What was your thought process putting that recipe together? Do you kind of have how that would go with the cheese or the other stuff? Like, what was your?
So, essentially, in order to make the spent grain crackers, you have to have the spent grain.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to go to a brewery and sit there and try and drum up, a half a cup of some spent grain.
Mm-hmm.
So I figure what better way to do it than to come in here, actually get the grain from you, make some wort at home, and then use the wort and the grain to make these to bring in today.
So I will say this is going to be a pretty big, heavy food episode.
Yeah.
So forgive us for the chewing noises and the
We're gonna try to back off
the gnashing of teeth. So while we're enjoying this is amazing, by the way. Talk to us a little bit about your growth though as a company, because like you have done a lot, and I'm sure you've like learned some things along the way. Like, what were those initial steps for you? Did you find yourself working at a lot of festivals and events and just like getting your name out there, guerrilla marketing style?
So when I first started, I had a background in the local farmers market scene. So I used to manage the largest farmers market in Louisville back in 2007 and 2008. And I got very familiar with the process for starting your own food company or just being a farmer in general. And with that knowledge, it kind of allowed me to understand the steps in at least getting out there, putting your product in front of people, and then doing some grassroots stuff like going to a farmer's market or going to the flea off market. I tried a lot of different things in terms of, industry events, whether it be like Tales of the Cocktail or the Indie Spirits Expo. I've eventually, after launching the company and somebody talking to me who owned a coffee shop, they were like, we want to try and use your syrups in our coffee. And at the time, I did not drink coffee. It was not in my repertoire of daily consumption. And so after they started ordering the syrup to make their mocha porter latte, I started asking more questions about the coffee industry. And that's really been the biggest trajectory of growth for us because of how much syrups are used in every coffee shop. It's an integral part of their business. When you walk in, you see anywhere from 4 to 44 bottles of syrup on the back bar. And it was an easy transition for us to get placement into those coffee shops. Whereas in the past, I started off, as a bartender, wanting to create these syrups for the craft cocktail scene. And as you probably very well know, if you consume craft cocktails, every bar is very proud of their program. And they typically all like to make their own syrups in-house, their shrubs, infusions, literally everything. And so it was kind of an uphill battle to get cocktail bars to bring it on without, essentially giving the product away for a free promotional. We'll shout you out on Facebook or Instagram, and then we'll do a featured drink. But, we're not going to commit to buying, cases from you over the next, 6 months. But with coffee shops, it was a very, very easy transition. And outside of coffee, obviously, food is a big thing. Every recipe that I've messed with, I've introduced that to a restaurant along the way. Some of them take it and they run with it. Some don't, but that's the battle. So,
and when you look and when you're like, you have a lot of products that you have a lot of different flavors of your syrup that you make. When you're developing new ones or when you're developing your line, like how do you seek out the beers that you decide to use? Do you usually think like, oh, I want to make a stout. Let me go around and find the right stout. Or do you drink a beer and then it like speaks to you and you're like, oh, this needs to be a fucking syrup. Like, or is it something totally different?
Yeah, no, a lot of it is just me trial and error of trying different beers. But I will say one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got years ago, which I didn't necessarily take heed to.
As everybody does with all the best advice.
Yeah. But, Sam Cruz from Against the Grain, we sat down while I was working for him, actually. And, he was like, this beer might not be around forever. This brewery might not be around forever. So you're going to have to consider other ways to source said beer.
Mm-hmm.
And I've already run into that even pre-COVID. So you had a lot of breweries that started pulling national distribution, when breweries are in like 40 plus states. And then, of course, COVID, that just threw a wrench into everything. And so now there's actually beers that I can't source from our own state distributors. Wow. And I actually have to, drive a little ways to go pick up some kegs. I'm not saying I bootleg them back illegally.
No, of course.
You're
saying quite the opposite. Quite the opposite.
Sir. Yeah, everything is on the up and up.
Yeah.
Yes. But it is a lot of times like I'll be at a festival and I'll try a beer and I'm like, man, this would go really good in a cocktail, or this would go really good in like a dump cake, or whatever the case is. And ultimately I'd love to partner with any brewery that wants to make a syrup out of one of their beers to either feature in a cocktail or food menu. But yeah, like I said, a lot of trial and error and just figuring it out. And sometimes you think a beer is going to taste good as a syrup. You go, you cook it down and it's not, but that's okay.
Yeah. I liked your point about starting in the farmer's market. When we had Adam Steckler on, did a lot of cheese knowledge for us, but talked about how vital those markets are for those producers to get their, product out. Cause it's like, well, why don't you just go through a distributor? It's like, well, not every distributor wants what I have to offer.
That's true.
So that's a good way to start, in my opinion.
And with like volumes too. It's like, you could have to sell a distributor at XYZ every month. Yeah. At the farmer's market, you just go, you like interface directly with people. It's a different business model, which I like personally.
It is. Yeah.
I know that I've seen a lot of your products before at the Louisville Tourism Center.
Yes.
So do you have like a core number of products that you make sure are always in stock at certain places like that do carry that for the, consumer facing products?
Yeah. So our bourbon barrel stout syrup is the number one selling syrup, both wholesale, for commercial food service and also our retail bottles. I don't care where I go, New Orleans, Portland, Chicago. It doesn't matter. Every single time the bourbon barrel stout is our best selling syrup. And so no matter what, I try to make sure that I always have that in stock. Our second best selling syrup was pecan nut brown, but that's one that I cannot get anymore. Have not been able to get that beer in a few years, unfortunately. But yeah, the bourbon barrel stout, I like I said, I always have that in stock. That's the one that the coffee shops use the most. And it's also one of those things where if the brewery is out of that beer or if the distributor is out of that beer, you just have to plan months and months ahead of time, much like breweries forecast their production. They're doing it a lot further out than a few months. But that's something that I've tried to organize with the breweries directly to say, hey, look, I'm expecting to produce, upwards of 8 kegs, and I'm going to need those over the course of the next 4 months. And so I'll try and work with them directly to be able to make sure that I have product to be able to make it. And obviously, keep the flow of syrup going. So,
I'm going to, because I know this is a multi-course, so I'm going to grab the next course.
Keep it moving.
The question I have is, when you're talking about production forecast, don't give away the secret sauce, but you say you buy a 6-stole, right? Mm-hmm. How far do you have to reduce that down? Or does it, you're obviously not trading 1-for-1 on the volume there.
Right. No. So I'm going to give away all my secrets here. I
just keep your social security number.
Yeah. You can have that too, dude, for real. You're not getting much. So when I approached the production of the syrup, I initially, like a lot of chefs, right? You think that if you just kind of flambe something in a pan and light it on fire, then the alcohol cooks off. And that is just not the case whatsoever. Alcohol lives in the liquid, and it takes a long time to reduce alcohol to where it's actually less than 1% and safe for, people to consume. I started out, like I said, just boiling it for like 5-10 minutes, adding sugar, calling it a day. But as you start reading and researching, I looked at it like barbecue almost. So the evaporation point for alcohol is 172 degrees. And so I never like to bring my reduction up above 185. And I dialed it in actually when I first before I officially launched, or I should say after I officially launched, I was, I was at an event for, it was Dogfish Head and Kentucky Ale. Dr. Pierce Lyons and Sam Caglione were headlining this event.
Good old days.
What a weird combination there from a long time ago.
Yeah. They did Dogfish Head brewed one of theirs, and then Kentucky Ale brewed one of theirs.
That's awesome.
And I mean, the beers were great. But Drew Johnson and I were there that night, and I met the vice president of operations for Kentucky Ale, and I told him that I was having a hard time getting into a lab to test my alcohol levels because the person who I was working with quoted me way too much money to test. And he was really intrigued by what I was doing and said, hey, come down to the lab. The only thing you'll have to pay for is gas money to get to Lexington.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so over the course of 2 to 3 months, I went and probably dropped off like 40 plus samples to their lab and got to hang out in the lab using their Anton Par alkalizer to actually dial in my reduction method. So time, temperature, everything. I will say that to bring a 5% beer below 1% alcohol, it takes a couple hours. And it takes, 3 or more for bigger beers that are like 9-10%. And so whenever you're reducing that, when you're treating it low and slow like barbecue, you're not losing as much liquid. You're not burning all of those like very volatile flavor profiles within that beer, whether it's the hops, the malt, the yeast, whatever the case is. And so, I by happenstance, I met this gentleman. He invited me down and probably saved me well over, according to what the person was quoting me, $30,000.
Holy shit.
So, and I think I will continue to thank them publicly for
We've talked about the
life.
legacy of Alltech on this show a few times, but it's probably worth mentioning it here. For everything that Kentucky beer is now, I'll just be straight up. Everybody poo-poos on Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale a little bit. Sometimes everybody, but that's where we all started. And it was all good back when we were in college and stuff. All of that aside, the legacy that Alltech and Kentucky Ale brought to Kentucky is immeasurable. It's really what started it all, in addition to, the other breweries and startups and stuff like that. But the pedigree of so many breweries that we have today all started in Alltech, and especially having those lab services in the state and being able to have that level of precision. We have a lot to be thankful to for that, to Alltech for all that stuff. So shout out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as I mentioned, we have a lot of different courses today, and the whole, point of it is that everything that we're going to be eating tonight and drinking from you that you've brought is, made with beer syrup.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about the salad that's in front of us right now.
So this is an arugula salad with Dano's toasted pepitas. I'm going to shout out Dano.
Yeah. If you don't know, you don't Dano.
Exactly. Yum, get you some, baby. So it's arugula salad with Dano's toasted pepitas, julienne apples, cranberry, Capriole goat cheese, and then it is a champagne vinegar with cider and shallot vinaigrette.
Holy mother of moly.
Is it shallot or shallot?
I eat shallot of it, So,
it's actually.
I see you, young Gordon Ramsay.
These dad jokes get worse, I promise. But yes, this is honestly, it's one of my favorite vinaigrettes that I make. The semi-dry cider syrup with the champagne vinegar, a little bit of lemon juice, salt, pepper, shallot. It's I use it all the time. Even making a cucumber and tomato salad, I will use that as my dressing.
Yo, I want to inject this in my veins. I was pouring it on and I was like, is this too much? I'm like, no.
Excellent blend of textures too. A little bit of crunch, and then you also like what you said. There's like some pepitos, and then what are the dried fruits? Cranberry.
So it's dried cranberry and then julienne apples.
Oh man,
yes.
That little bit of fruit in a salad sometimes gives you a little bit of a chew. It like brings everything together. And the goat cheese.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
This is all great.
Yeah.
So
Look, you're an addict, David.
Oh yeah, this is good shit.
So Capriole Farms was actually one of my vendors at the farmers market when I used to manage it, and I have been buying their cheese for a long, long time.
You probably make a lot of good connections doing that kind of work, I would think.
I mean, I am still friends with a lot of the farmers today. A lot of them still are, out there every single weekend during the summer, and it's always great. Whenever I show up to the market and I see people that I used to, work with over 15 years ago. So,
Do you have a favorite farmer's market? There's a lot that go on.
I will say that I love the layout of Douglas Loop.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, when I started, that's my very first farmer's market that I did with the beer syrup company. The market that I managed, the St. Matthew's market at Beargrass Christian Church, it actually was so big that you had an alternate list of vendors of over 25 vendors who were just alternates. So if somebody didn't show up, I would call somebody at 6 o'clock in the morning or, 10 o'clock the night before and be like, hey, someone canceled. Can you be there?
And where is the Beargrass Christian? Is it on? Is off like
Shelbyville
Cliff?
Road.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Across from the old Laser Blaze Big Lots.
Wait, the old Laser Blaze? Is Laser Blaze still there?
Is it gone?
It's not. It's gone.
No.
What?
Yeah. I actually drove by the other day and I sat there, and it's now the School of Rock headquarters.
All right.
Which
Fair deal with that.
We can live with that.
Yeah. Those are some very talented kids. If you've never seen them perform live, extremely talented.
They just performed at Nulu Fest. I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah. They gig basically every weekend.
They're rock stars.
Like 3 out of the 4 weekends a month they gig. And they pretty much are. I have a friend, her daughter's actually one of the lead singers. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Have they met Jet Black?
God, that'd be great, right?
No.
It seems like he rolls through Louisville every once a couple of years.
Yeah, just an impersonator.
Yeah, he was here for Louder Than Life last year, and he was hanging out at Vernon Lanes. So,
Yeah, that's right.
Which they brag about all the time.
constantly. Yeah.
I would too.
It's a good
same
little
here.
piece of marketing.
Same here.
You know?
Yeah.
Show up to Vernon Lanes tonight. Jack Black may not be here.
So let's say I want to go home tonight and just like start making syrup with the beer that I have in my fridge that I never drink anyway. Our chances are that I have things already in my house that I can just go ahead and start on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you've got sugar and you've got old beer that you don't want to consume,
And just
By the pint?
just a pan on a low burn.
Low and slow.
absolutely.
All right. And
Absolutely.
then what would be the next step?
So ultimately, adding the sugar after you reduce it. When I make my simple syrup, I don't do a traditional 1-to-1 blend, which is just your normal simple syrup ratio. There's also the rich simple, which is a 2-to-1 blend of sugar to your liquid. So I just split the difference, and it's a consistency that is great for both cocktails and for food. So I do a 1.5-to-1 sugar to beer.
And then I guess what I should have clarified
Giving away
is
all the secrets again. I don't
what is
care.
the next step? Let's say I want to start like batching things. It's still always going to be that same ratio. And
Yeah.
okay.
So the other thing you can do is add a little citric acid. For instance, if you don't have a ton of space in your refrigerator,
Mhm.
This is all very, hypothetical, but if you have a pH meter at home and you want to actually take some citric acid that you also may have above your refrigerator.
Hey, that was my point. I was just like, if I want to grow this thing, what's the next step? And it's to get those tools and
Right. Beer Syrup Company Jr. over here. Right.
Yeah.
So ultimately to make something shelf stable, the pH level has to be below 4.4. And whenever you're making syrups out of beer, the pH is not going to, especially with the amount of sugar that you add to it. It's a dash of citric acid. And then, of course, once it's below 4.4, you can cap it and just set it on your counter and it's shelf stable.
Can I just do it with like the thing that I test my like pool water with and like put the drops in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's the fish tank. That's the one they use.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Add a chlorine tablet in there too if you need to. If you need to.
That'd be great.
See, I knew you'd give away all the secrets.
Yeah. Summer
Shit's so
vibes.
good. You're
Summer
like,
vibes.
This is in coffee shops, and like there's 40 plus syrups in every coffee shop, and literally every time I walk in, I'm just like ice cold brew. And they're like, what size? I'm like, large. And then I'm like, is there beer syrup? No, I don't have.
Anybody can try to turn beer into syrup, but not everybody could do what you've done, like mastering those flavors and figuring out how to use them too. That's like the coolest thing is how you incorporate it into so many different dishes. And it's kind of a part of what our mission is too, is to because beer is part of everything. Beer should be involved in all parts of society if you like beer, but it's cool to see it mixed in with the coffee world, the culinary world, any other the cocktail.
You're constantly at events.
I'm trying.
Yeah, I see you at Big Four Arts Festival.
Tailspin Ale Fest.
Tailspin.
It's where I got this this thing
You
I'm
ready?
wearing.
Ready to go?
This is where I got it at Tailspin. Yeah.
This is true. I did bestow that upon you.
Yes.
You're one of the 100 Acre homies now.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to know what the hell they're talking about, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, and then you'll just know. Honestly, you'll just understand.
It's worth it. Trust me.
As John said, I mean, yeah, all this beer syrup can kind of be applied to anything. So what is the next the dish in this rotation?
So I did mention that after a while, it became hard to source some of the beers. That has become a challenge, and really trying to figure out the next step as a lot of companies did during, COVID, they pivoted and went in a different direction.
Yeah.
So the next product that I intend to put out there is not going to be made from a fermented beer. It will actually include all of the key ingredients of said flavor. So if it's a bourbon barrel stout, it's going to have these specific malt extracts, these specific hop extracts, and trying to create that product from aggregate using the core ingredients without fermenting them out, which will make it 100% non-alcoholic, which also makes it more approachable for NA bars and, mocktail bars that exist in coffee shops and so on and so forth. And creating concentrates of the actual beer flavors that can then be turned into syrups themselves or sold to a confectioner or a baker or an ice cream manufacturer or any of the places that are going to want to use like a syrup or an extract. So it just makes it scalable. It makes it sustainable, where I'm not necessarily relying on that beer to be in stock at a brewery or a distributor. So I've talked about it with a few people, but I'm currently in the R&D phase of, developing those concentrates. And whenever those are ready, hopefully soon, that's going to be the next iteration for us, for me. And I would love to also continue to work with breweries directly to do private label syrups.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've proposed to a few breweries, and a couple of them are excited about it, and a couple of them are, still questioning what I'm doing.
Not after this podcast, baby.
Yeah.
You haven't tried the goddamn pickles.
Can you imagine a Uncle Disheveled beer syrup?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What do we have in front of us right now?
Okay, so this is a side item. It is a cucumber and pickle salad with fresh dill. The pickles, or rather, I should say, the pickling for this was just simply some semi-dry cider, some apple cider vinegar, and then a little bit of salt and pepper. But the onions are pickled red onions that I do for just for fun. They are rosemary, garlic, salt and pepper, and cider with white wine vinegar. And those onions, they go on everything that I make at home: tacos, burgers, salads.
I used to be so scared of pickled red onions.
Me too.
And now they're literally just good on everything.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
everything.
mean, I eat them plain.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they're so good.
And they're good for you.
Yeah.
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 Especially if you use some of that like funky vinegar that's got like the probiotics and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I'm a pickle guy, and those are fucking good, dude. That's so
Thank you.
good.
Thank you.
Oh my God. It's like Gordon fresh too, especially with the dill and all that stuff in there.
The dill sets it off for sure.
Yeah. Oh my God. And what was the syrup the addition in this?
I just did the cider syrup.
Okay. Oh my God. Yeah, that is incredible.
Yeah, it's a great little summer salad. Pretty much everything that I make. I even had a bartender accuse me of this one time. She was like, "So you basically make picnic food?"
I mean,
And I'm like, "Yeah,
you want to
yeah,
go on a picnic?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah."
I would go on a picnic with you in the 100 Acre Woods right now.
I mean, I also like to do things like risotto and arancini. David knows all about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This is not girl dinner, guys.
Yeah,
No.
this is true.
This is real dinner.
This is the most dinner I've had in a long time.
I mean, this is kind of sometimes the shit that I like to eat though too, because it's like very filling, it's very fresh, but it's all really actually pretty healthy for you too. Like it's good food, it's real food.
Yeah.
That's you know, you don't find that everywhere, even especially in like a lot of chain restaurants and stuff like that. It's cool to see the connections between good beer, good food, all that stuff coming together. That goat cheese too. Let's make one more shout out to that goat cheese. That was some good ass shit.
It's super.
Shout out Capriel Farms. Absolutely.
You mentioned wanting to maybe go into the private label space with breweries.
Yes.
Over the years, have you found that breweries are willing or maybe unwilling or not sure to allow you to talk about which of their beers is in which of your syrups? Or is it mostly like anonymous and just like...
No, I mean, I'm direct with everybody. I mean, the Bourbon Barrel Stout is from Goodwood. The Chocolate Porter is from Boulder Brewing Company, Colorado's first microbrewery.
Some really good beer.
Yeah. I mean, the Boulder Shake Chocolate Porter is kind of the industry leader for chocolate porters. And I mean, there's a reason why. And I've tried a bunch of other chocolate porters. Do not get me wrong here. I've tried a lot of them, but the way that they brewed that beer with the fresh cacao nibs and the roasted malts, I mean, it absolutely has a different flavor profile and even texture, viscosity, and everything.
It kind of defined that style to me.
Yes.
Because I remember Boulder back in the day, like even 2010, 2008, like they were one of the first ones that we could get here in Louisville that was from like, you know, the Colorado and the Rocky Mountains area and stuff. And you were just like, oh, like this is totally different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the cider is from Rheingeist. Very solid, you know, semi-dry cider. The pecan nut brown was from Lazy Magnolia.
Oh yes, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But once again, the chocolate porter and the pecan nut brown, I actually cannot source in the state of Kentucky anymore. So now I have to find reasons to drive all the way out to Colorado.
Oh no!
Right? I know.
Well, since you haven't said it yet, have you tried making one with the hazy? And how bad was it?
These are fair questions.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's you know, once again, whenever you're cooking that stuff down and you're concentrating that flavor, especially with the hazy, it tastes kind of like a soft IPA, if you will. And I say that, but like it's loaded with sugar, so it's a sweet soft IPA.
Yeah.
So
in addition to like starches, and we all know that there's still some like hop acids and probably some hop particles floating around in there.
Yeah.
It's a chunk.
Yeah.
So we typically do a little bit of a berg break, but because we're doing a culinary experience right now, I'm going to let you dictate on whether or not you think it's appropriate to have a berg break right now or do another, you know, meal or another course. And then
when Underberg fits into
when does Underberg fit into this?
Your plan.
So, I mean, I'll never say no to an Underberg
That's the
at
good
any
answer.
given time of the day. I mean, it's just a little bottle, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit.
Yeah, it's
Makes
just
you
a
feel
little
bright and alert.
bottle. I mean, yeah. No, I
Just represents 5 generations
right
of
now
excellence.
sounds great.
All right.
Otherwise, you know, if you guys want to wait
Let's
till
just-
after the meal, I don't think it's necessary.
All right, let's just do it right now.
Yeah,
then.
I like
let's
this.
Let's enjoy
Yeah.
a moment of rejuvenation with Underberg.
I like this.
This herbal digestive was crafted with herbs from over 40 countries, and for over 175 years, people have unwrapped these tiny bottles after a good meal or beer, experiencing not just its complex character, but a delightful feeling of well-being. Did you know that it was founded in 1846 by Hubert Underberg? His name is Hubert.
I know now.
Yeah, and also it's barrel aged. It's barrel aged in Slovakian oak. Now, here's my question: when can we expect the Underberg syrup?
Here we go.
Do you know how many of these bottles you'd have to?
Did you get a sneak peek of the Underberg menu that I created? Like a food menu?
I would love to learn more.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, we need that inside info.
I mean, yeah. I actually, so I will do this I will conceptualize like 5-6 course food menus based off of, obviously syrups. And Underberg, I did a full like concept for just using Underberg in every aspect of the meal. And it looks delicious. If Underberg would like to sponsor it, that would be totally cool. I'll slave away in the kitchen for it.
Yeah, we can help with that. Maybe.
All right, let's enjoy this, and then maybe let me talk a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Thanks, Underberg. Does it taste better closer to Oktoberfest? Yes.
That was a spicy one.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I do love the product sincerely, but there's some days where they're just different.
The Underbergs?
Yeah. Like the blend is different. Like you taste different things out of it.
See, I think it reflects your palate because you can maybe tell me if I'm talking out of my ass here, but after eating something like light and acidic like that, it's going to hit the bitter in the back of your taste buds differently than if you just came off of like drinking a porter or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the only things you've ever said on this podcast that makes sense.
Because the aliens injected into our DNA in 10,000 BC that our taste buds had to register these herbal digestives because the pyramids.
I mean, I will say that, if you drink a milkshake and then you have an Underberg directly after that, it's going to have a very different flavor profile than if you just took a bite of filet mignon.
Well, now I just want an Underberg milkshake. So.
I know. Well, I mean, look, let's talk about that secret menu I had going on.
And I want to preface this. I take them all the time, and I'm never really conscious of what I just like had beforehand. So now I'm going to think about that a little bit.
Here's a one I really enjoy. Red wine followed by Underberg.
Hell yeah.
That's a good 1-2 punch that I never really thought I'd like, but ended up liking it. Shout out to Canary Club.
Oh, while we're on it, the iceberg that they have now.
Oh, it's What is that cocktail?
It's it's this bar down the street from us, Canary Club Breeze Wine Bar. They just basically made a tequila slushy, and then they just have a little Underberg topper in it.
I love that.
And it's fantastic.
I got to get one of those.
Like what
it's
are
like
they
a weird
called?
floater.
Where you put the Corona Ritas?
Yeah.
But it's a berg.
Oh my gosh.
Iceberg. So good.
You know what? I'm not going to disparage Corona because I drank too much of it when I was a kid.
No, same here.
Yeah,
Same here.
Yeah, but I'm just very thankful that I've never worked in a bar that had to serve a Corona Rita.
You've never worked at El Nepal
or Burritaville?
Yeah, no. I went to Margaritaville once and I lost my shirt. But
did you step on a pop top?
No, I didn't. I was on my way back and I definitely stole this dude's bird off his shoulder. And then had a mariachi
actual bird
chasing me. Yeah. And then I jumped into a big rooster shaped bush. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. So it sounds like you had a rough week last week.
No, this was definitely
R.I.P. Jimmy Buffett. It was a hard week for all of us.
So if you've been watching this on YouTube again, you obviously have noticed that there are some costumes going on right now. We're with the 100 Acre homies, as Russ liked to say. To that point, we always like to incorporate some kind of, game of some sort into our podcast. And John has come up with something very fun for you.
Okay. All right.
So, Russ, one thing that we all know about you, and I'm not sure if you're okay admitting this or not.
Oh, no.
But, I'm sure it was not the first time I met you, but it was the first time I was like, oh, there's Russ. You were probably at Tailspin Ale Festival, and you were wearing a Winnie the Pooh costume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You do that sometimes.
Yeah.
So we were just wondering do you have any deep affinity for Winnie the Pooh, or how did this enter into your lexicon of behavioral norms? David, you're not one to talk right now.
No, I can honestly tell you that it has nothing to do with an affinity for Winnie the Pooh or the cartoon at all. It just honestly during the pandemic.
Okay, everything is understood.
Everything else you say after this
is fine. Everything's fine.
Oh gosh, no. So a good friend of mine, okay, who's a glass blower. His son is an artist as well.
Where are we going with this, Russ?
I love it. Oh yeah, this is the truth. My buddy's kid was doing these cartoon mashups. He's a great illustrator, right? And I sat there and I was like, Winnie the Pooh, he likes honey. But what if I made Winnie the Pooh like beer syrup instead?
Yep, he would like it.
Yeah, and then what if I had my friend's kid Max? What if I had him, put glasses on him with a beard and a beer syrup shirt? And so Max actually drew this out for me. And I said, the next big event that I go to, I'm going to wear a Winnie the Pooh costume.
Hell yeah.
And I'm going to wear my shirt and I'm going to walk around with a little bucket that says beer syrup on it. And I'm just going to hand out swag and beer syrup bottles. And I did that at Tailspin under the influence.
You don't forget your red balloon.
Oh yeah, you had that.
The red balloon. That was great. I actually had I had some nitro coffee on draft at that Tailspin, and I had a red balloon tied to the tap handle.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, until the red balloon came loose and it flew all the way to the top, and you would have thought that I was like the saddest Pooh Bear in the world.
Well, I was
I thought
perusing through the literature earlier today, both of the 100 Acre Woods and also of the current state of psychology. And I did find I'll put this link in the show notes. This is real. A published paper saying that everyone's personal complexes they had like 73 questions that you would have to answer can be related back to the archetype of one of the characters in the 100 Acre Woods.
Oh,
I put all of the parameters that they generated in their study into ChatGTP. And then we told it to generate a personality quiz that we can go through in about 8 steps here. That's going to reveal to you which character in the 100 Acre Woods you might be and which archetype of the collective unconscious you might ultimately identify with. If you're ready, sir, we would like to present a game to you to play called
Winnie the Brew.
Winnie the Brew. Moeller came up with that one.
Preface, this is the coolest shit I've ever done.
Question 1. You find yourself working in a hip cocktail bar. In the vibrant hustle, with a mix of different patrons voicing their orders and preferences, how do you decide which order to prioritize and which drinks to prepare first? Describe your approach. In the heat of the moment, you've got all these orders coming in. How do you decide? How do you triage that situation? What do you make? What do you ask your teammates to do? What do you Russ Meredith do in that situation? What do you Pooh do in that situation?
Rusty the Brew Bear?
Yes. Yes.
So having worked in the service industry for a very long time, people appreciate being taken care of in the order in which they got to the bar. So as an observant bartender, you're always seeing people walk up and you can say, that person's next, that person's after that person is after the last person. And then if somebody comes up and tries to get a drink in between all of your song and dance of making sure that everyone's taken care of in an orderly fashion, then you have to tell them to wait.
Okay.
And as far as drinks go, talented bartenders can sometimes make 2 to 3 cocktails at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen bartenders stir 2 drinks at once. And I've also been known to shake 3 cocktails at once. So depending on the drinks that are ordered and the amount of time, of course, that it takes to order said drink, or rather to create said drink. It's really just forming an order of operations in your head that you already know because you're behind that stick every day. And so you know exactly what needs to be done. And you can quick ask a bartender if they're free. Hey, will you grab me a Coors Light out of the fridge? Or hopefully it's a Miller High Life. But yeah, that's effectively the way I do it, is order of people in which they arrive to the bar.
So here's what I heard out of all that. You can tell me if this is right or wrong, and we can refine. First come, first serve is the first priority. Let's tell chat this as we go. First come, first serve is the first priority. Then you look at the order of operations to determine the most efficient way to make the cocktails and reach out to the rest of your team where is applicable to keep the flow going.
Yes. That was very succinct.
All right, we're going to let chat think on this one for a second.
I'll check.
Oh, we got it. This response, I won't tell you what it says until the end. Yeah, sure I will. This response seems to suggest a strong emphasis on observation, orderliness, efficiency, and multitasking.
Can I guess?
Not yet. There's 8 questions.
We're not going to do all 8 if that one took that as
The
much
respondent
time.
appears to value fairness and has developed a system to ensure that customers are served in the order that they arrive, but also showcases adaptability and quick thinking to manage multiple tasks simultaneously. Let's craft this next question to
All right, let's
further
take a call.
explore this balance of fairness, efficiency, and adaptability. Question 2. Imagine a scenario where every seat at the bar is occupied and customers are starting to gather around the entrance, creating a sense of urgency and tension in the air. How do you maintain composure and manage expectations while ensuring that each customer feels acknowledged? Would you communicate timeframes and wait times explicitly, or would you leverage your multitasking skills to accommodate as many requests as swiftly as possible? Looking forward to hearing the response and tailoring your next question.
If you have a bunch of people blocking the entrance and exit of the bar, I tell them to get out of the way and to move to a spot where they're not blocking other people. I'm also very direct with a lot of people in the bar, and they appreciate that.
So we will say, communicate expectations clearly, manage expectations, and
like a
don't be
bad
afraid to
job
be
interview.
direct.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. I won't read you the analysis. Otherwise, we'll just go right into the next question. We'll get the analysis at the end. You're caught in a whirlwind of diverse and eclectic drink orders, each with its own unique set of requirements and preparations. How do you navigate this complexity to deliver each drink with precision and care? Do you follow a structured step-by-step approach for each drink, or do you improvise and adapt your techniques based on the situation at hand?
No, so once again, with every cocktail, you have a very specific build, right? So you add one ingredient first, next ingredient, ice, stir, strain, add fresh ice, garnish, so on and so forth. There's a lot of, depending on the cocktail, is going to be a different production method, so to speak. So no matter what, you never cut corners in making a drink because ultimately your integrity suffers.
Okay. I think that's a pretty good answer. We are converting it from text to speech, and chat has it. This response shows a commitment to integrity, precision, and the quality in drink preparation, emphasizing adherence to a specific build and production method of each cocktail without cutting corners. Question 4. When faced with a concoction that didn't turn out as expected, or a customer dissatisfied with their choice, how do you handle the situation? Do you strictly adhere to the bar's policy on remakes and returns, or do you prioritize customer satisfaction and willingly accommodate their preference? This does sound like a weird job interview, like in Blade Runner and requests, even if it means bending the rules a bit.
Yeah, ultimately, you're going to replace the drink. If a customer's unhappy, you just want to make them happy. Now, if they're being unreasonable with their unhappiness, you also have to be stern and let them know that this next drink is going to be your drink.
Mm-hmm.
Can you remake my Pappy 23 old fashioned, please?
I can, and you're going to pay for it again.
Question 5. Amidst the rhythm of shaking, stirring, and serving, how do you manage to stay attuned to the emotional climate of the bar? Do you rely on intuitive cues to sense the mood and needs of your patrons, or do you engage them in conversation to understand their state of mind and adjust to the ambiance accordingly?
I want to answer this for you so bad.
So as a bartender, mood and tone and everything can often be set by the music and the volume of the music. And so if you sense something that's going on in the bar where you need to change that mood, change the music and see how it doesn't affect it without you interjecting yourself into a situation first. See how the music changes the tone.
I was going to say turn on Nickelback. So that's basically what you said.
Look at this photograph. Every time I do, I send it back. The drink, that is. Question 6. When a mistake occurs, such as a wrong order or a spilled drink, how do you react? Do you focus on resolving the issue swiftly and moving on, or do you take a moment to analyze the situation and try to prevent similar errors in the future? How do you maintain the balance between quick resolution and learning from the mistakes?
So whenever you make a drink wrong, or if you knock something over in the well, it's just a real quick reminder that shit happens every day at work, and you just have to do whatever it is to remedy it within the quickest amount of time possible. Because if you're in the middle of a rush, the last thing you want is a broken glass in your ice well. The last thing you want is spilled cocktails all over your glassware that's clean. It happens. And after you've been in the industry long enough, it's going to continue to happen, and you know it's going to continue to happen. You just try to mitigate that at all costs.
That sounds like a very, very reasonable answer. I should have mentioned to you before all this, we are going to be turning this into the Russ Meredith training model chat AI bot for all of you cocktail bars out there that are looking for a training guide. This will all be, this is the Bible now.
Can we start selling this?
That's what I'm saying. It'll be monetized.
Oh, nice.
Who gets a cut?
Can we
Love
start
it.
eating? Because I got out more food.
Do it, dude. Do it.
What? I don't know
We have
what
two
it
more
is.
questions.
Okay.
When the crowd has thinned and you have a moment of respite, how do you utilize this time? Do you reflect on the events of the shift and strategize for the remaining time, or do you focus on preparing for the next wave, ensuring that everything is in its place and ready for action?
Downtime is not, it should not be wasted. You should actually be looking to whatever the next task is, whether it's going and checking on bathrooms, or maybe it's pre-closing the bar. So you start cleaning bar mats, you start, prepping everything for the close. If there is downtime and you're not doing anything, then you've got a lot to learn in the bar.
I think that's an incredibly, incredibly reasonable answer. It's what I would want to hear in any employee. Folks out there ready to franchise this opportunity. Final question. At the close of the night, when reflections intertwine with exhaustion, how do you unwind and detach from the buzz and the clatter that was your bar? Do you find solace in solitude and reflection, or do you seek the company of others, sharing your experiences and reliving the vibrant moments from that shift? Looking forward to concluding this final insight.
Now, is this for after the bar's closed?
So this is kind of what you do at the end of the night. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you spend time detaching from the buzz and clutter, or do you find solace in the company of your fellow staff?
So we tend to crank the music up a little bit and just go through the motions of closing the bar down. You don't necessarily sit and reflect on the evening. I mean, once you've done it a million times over, it's like, yeah, I know that I won't do that again, or, you learn from your mistakes. But typically you just crank the music, go through the close, and then hug at the end and drive home.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for completing this future training tool, but psych, it wasn't a future training tool. This was a ruse to gain insight into your psychological state and to truly prove once and for all which Winnie the Pooh character you are.
Let's take guess. You take a guess. You take a guess. I'll take a guess.
I will say it's probably more Christopher Robin.
David, who you got?
I got the owl.
I've got
the wise old owl. The owl's the shit, dude.
I've got Rabbit.
Okay. I saw the answer, so I can't play anymore.
But you can tell us.
I'm going for Winnie the Pooh just because of the whole vibe and the good food and the good nature. Although Winnie's kind of an idiot, and that certainly is not you, sir.
Yeah.
And he also doesn't wear pants, and I can't say every time I've seen you've been wearing pants.
Come to the house.
Character deduction. This individual places a high value on efficiency, proactive problem solving, and meticulous attention to detail. They demonstrate resilience, adaptability, and a strong commitment to maintaining high quality standards and customer satisfaction with an intuitive understanding of the environment and a pragmatic approach to challenges. Given these traits, this individual most aligns with Rabbit from Winnie the Pooh. Rabbit is methodical, organized, and values order and precision, although Rabbit's a little more high-strung than you are, I will say. Traits that are crucial in managing the intricate dynamics of a bustling bar environment. Like Rabbit, this respondent strives to maintain harmony and balance and is inclined to be proactive and attentive to the needs of the environment, emphasizing fairness and customer satisfaction while also maintaining boundaries.
This is the coolest thing I've ever done.
Other examples of Rabbit include Ted Kaczynski, Ted Bundy. I didn't get that part up. Get that part up.
Yikes.
This was way cooler than the Briggs Meyer thing I did years ago. I'm telling you.
I will legitimately put a link in the show notes, but there is a whole psychological system that people made to define your, okay, we got a gusher over here. David, I did do the test for you earlier.
David,
you want to guess what you were?
You don't know my answers.
Oh, I know your answers.
I think I'm the owl.
You were Piglet.
Oh.
No, you were Eeyore. No.
So David just opened up a bottle and now it's just gushing everywhere.
We got a gusher.
Oh man. Oh man!
He just walked away with the headphones.
To be
Potentially
fair,
ruin the
no.
entire
To be fair,
podcast.
He's also got the whole costume on.
I'm so sober.
That's the thing. This is the most sober David Satterley's ever been.
Isn't there like a shucks, guys? I'm sorry I messed it up.
No, don't trip over the camera cable.
Thanks for the beer.
All right. So while David's handling that, tell us a little bit about these sandwiches in front of us.
All right.
Hell
Well, so I made a couple sliders. The one in the middle is a pretzel bun slider that's got pulled pork, and the pulled pork is all from Four Pegs here locally. And shout out Chris Williams. Love you, bud. But on the pretzel bun slider is a little bit more of that bacon jam that we had on top of the brie.
Yeah.
And that is the only thing that's on there because that's really all you need. The other two sliders actually have some of those pickled red onions that I love to make. And then there is a Habagardil pickle from Pop's Pepper Patch, who Pop's Pepper Patch has been my co-packer ever since I started. They make pickles, barbecue sauces, Bloody Mary mixes, all kinds of things, but they do a lot for local restaurants who are trying to scale up their sauce production. And of course, small producers like myself who are out there just making their own, food and beverage products.
Yeah.
So, David, if you will, do you mind grabbing the barbecue sauce that's in the quart container?
All right. You had me at barbecue sauce.
That is it right there. And it's got a spoon on it. So this is a special Carolina style barbecue sauce that I made. It's very wet. It's a vinegar based sauce, but it's got, excuse me. It's got some red chili pepper or red chili flake in there, bourbon barrel stout syrup, apple cider vinegar, Kevin Gibson's hot sauce.
I got that little bit of pepper right off the front.
Yeah.
Do you recommend this on all three?
Just the non-pretzel one. Yeah, which I saw you just put. That's okay though. It's gonna be as good.
I like to live dangerously.
Just the non-pretzel one?
Yeah.
So both non-pretzel ones.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sauce, sir.
I am for this.
And do you have a order of operations that you recommend here?
No, just enjoy.
Just go for it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, I heard the description and I think it sounds great.
Oh my god. Oh, good call, David.
David, what happened to you just a second ago?
Well, being the thoughtful person I am, I brought a beer for us to share. That beer being a Pillar of Beast from Three Floyds Brewing Company. And the reason I brought this was, one, because barley wine is excellent, and two, because Three Floyds has recently announced that they are trying to reopen their tap room up in Munster. For anybody who's made the trip up 65 from Louisville or Nashville or however you're coming, Munster's this little town in Indiana, about an hour-ish, a little more away from Chicago land. But it's where Three Floyds has done all their production facility for ever, really. And I think in 2021, they announced that they were closing the tap room. So the last time I went up there was January 2021.
I feel like that was another one of those thank you COVID things.
Well,
in addition to some other factors.
Well, they lean pretty heavy into distribution, their staffing. But I will say, like, every time I went there, the food was amazing. They had all kinds of like beers that you just couldn't get in regular distro markets. And this beer was actually one of them. Pillar of Beast is a barley wine brewed with like salted caramel, vanilla, cocoa nibs. Then they put it in oak barrels for a little while. This used to be a large format bottle, which was pretty sought after. And then a little while later, they came out with it in 4-packs, which is much more digestible for what I'm sure is a little over 10% here. Hold on.
By the way, these fucking sliders, holy shit, dude. It's so freaking good. Yeah. Incredible.
It actually doesn't say on here, or I can't read, but I know it's a big guy. Anyways, it's delicious. I don't know why it doesn't smell infected or anything.
It just gush all over us for the listeners. Let's see what we got. It's pouring nice. It looks good. I'm very interested to see if this is like completely infected or if this is going to be one of the best beers we've ever had.
It's not that old either.
I'm smelling a little bit of like old barley wine coming off of it, but nothing too terrible. Let's find out.
I'm just going to say this barbecue sauce is spicy.
I'm here for it, man.
You are sweating.
No, you guys are also wearing, for the listeners at this point, we'll clue you in. You guys are wearing Winnie the Pooh and your onesies while Mueller and I are sitting here casual and comfortable.
This is true. I'm a glutton for punishment, though.
I can take it off if everyone would be more comfortable.
Nope.
No, you look so much better with that on.
To me, the level of spice is bing bang. It's like exceptionally good. And it balances out perfectly with like the little lightness of the pickle and the onion. And then just the freaking, obviously, incredibly good quality meat that's in there.
I'm just going to say that Kevin Gibson's hot sauce, though.
Top.
He brought it on. So like, it's funny that you mentioned like him when he came on. He brought us hot sauce and we ate it. We're like, it's not so hot. And he's like, oh no, wait.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
no, there's more.
Yeah.
And then we just watched Michael like torture himself for the last 15 minutes, just eating the hottest stuff possible.
I'll drink a shot glass of that if you want.
I mean, I will
please,
too. That's my
please.
jam. That is my jam.
I'll do it. Let me enjoy
I
that.
mean, nobody's like you. No one's asking you to.
I know.
It's like that kid in Asteroid City where he's like, do you dare me? And then he's like, no, don't do it. And he's like, but do you dare me?
I'll shoot myself in the hand with a nail gun.
That's me. Yes, everybody has seen Asteroid City by now. It's been out theater since 6 months or so.
All right, so I will say on this barley wine, it does have some like aged barley wine vibe to it, and I can see why it was a gusher, but it ain't bad. It like the barrel is the main thing coming through.
Yeah, it's a slight bit oxidized.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting.
But
how old was it again? Do you know?
no, that would have been from like last year sometime, I think.
Got it.
And I actually think it kind of works with barbecue, if I'm being honest.
Oh, barley wine.
Kind of balancing it, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Barley wine and steak. Oh,
Mhm.
gosh.
I want the hot sauce. I
Yeah.
gotta learn.
Clear out,
regret it.
clear out the old sinuses. I should also like, you're such a glutton for punishment. If you do it, I have to do it, I guess.
No. Also, like,
Oh my God.
I used to go see a movie every Tuesday. This is just a little bit insider knowledge. Like, I went to go see a movie this Tuesday. There's fucking nothing out. Like, if anyone has
Yeah.
any good movie racks that are like in theaters, I'm game because like I love taking my 3-4 hours just sitting in a movie theater doing nothing.
You
So
can
is that
do,
where this podcast is gone?
you can-
Damon's just asking for some movie recommendations while we eat barbecue.
I don't know why you're asking when you can just watch a new season of Love Is Blind.
It's not out. It's not
It's
all
out.
out. No, but like episodes are out,
Yeah.
not all of it. I can't do that. It's too stressful. I got to watch them like all at the same time.
All right, so let me do this hot sauce.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because this is where we
Well,
are.
if
in
you
the
do
show.
it, I have to do it.
Yep. So
Well, I still
just-
don't. So
just gonna do it in your old cocktail.
ew.
This is the
And do
newest,
a
the
watered
newest
down old
creation.
fashioned. There you go.
Yeah. Well. Okay.
There you go.
All right, well,
Yeah.
Prost.
It actually smells kind of good.
Okay, this stuff is hot.
Yeah, brother.
Now I'm mad at.
Thank you, Kevin Gibson.
He puts like those crazy. That actually is really fucking good, guys. I'm not playing.
Oh, I bet
It's
yeah.
actually really good.
Yeah.
It's like hot and sweet.
Add a shot of bourbon and it might as well be a Bloody Mary.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
Or a-
this is.
Yeah.
I'm not playing.
Yeah. No,
That's delicious.
I enjoy that.
And yeah, Kevin Gibson grows those like torture yourself peppers and then eats them on YouTube.
Yep.
If
All
Chasing
right.
the Heat, Kevin Gibson on YouTube.
Well, now since John one up me on my thing,
Oh,
I have to add it.
Ew, no.
We're adding it to the barley wine. All right.
That's-
I did not see this on the agenda.
This is foul.
for the evening.
Oh, we're way off the agenda at this
I am
point.
disrespecting Three Floyds right now, but they did it to themselves.
You're
a long time ago.
disrespecting beer on a whole.
Disrespecting
It's
my
called-
barbecue
it's
Have you
called-
sauce.
listened to this podcast before?
It's called cuveeing and it's fancy. Okay.
Hey, you're playing games. I'm not kidding about the quality of the barbecue sauce and
This
dregged
looks so
cocktail.
bad.
Yeah, you're gonna be feeling that one tomorrow at Bellarmine. That's gonna be it's gonna be all we're talking about.
Does it taste like Underberg?
No matter if you give this even a slightly I'm not going to believe you. You're gonna have to really sell it.
You know what?
Oh my god, he's selling it. He's selling it.
It's
All right, fuck you, Michael. God damn it.
Russ is like, yeah, I was gonna try to save most of that for like my next event.
No, not at all.
I appreciate them. Russ and I have like the sanity to just be like, this is a bad idea.
No, not at all.
It's fine.
You know what?
Like, it's not great, but it's better than what the beer was.
It's better than a lot of prairie beers I've had.
I'll leave it
that's
there.
just such an awkward stab.
That's a testament to how good that fucking hot sauce is.
You could
I
probably
could get addicted to that.
Yeah.
Would you call it hot sauce or barbecue sauce?
It is technically a Carolina style barbecue sauce.
Okay, yeah. It just got some heat.
Well, in
Yes.
the interest of
Super
not getting
well.
sick, I am going to put this aside now.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
But
Is there any Louisville news to talk about?
actually, yeah, we are at this point just a couple weeks away from Louisville Beer Week, October 20th through the 27th.
It sneaks up every year.
Yeah, it really does. Every year we always randomly pair the breweries up to do some collabs together, and sometimes they've done it before. Sometimes they never would have dreamed of doing it together. Either by location or just folks not knowing each other well enough. So this gives them an opportunity to come together for Beer Week and do a collab. And over the course of these episodes of the podcast, we've been slowly rolling out the collab partners. So we don't know all of the specific beers yet that people are doing. We can say tonight that Butchertown Brewing, Andy Cobb, who has been on the podcast before, they are doing a collab with Noble Funk. And if you go back to probably almost 2 years ago now, with John and Dominique from Noble Funk, I'm excited to see what they can do together.
Me too. But Andy goes wild. He does normal styles really well too. John and Dominique over at Noble Funk, they go traditional, but they're not afraid to get wild. So it's kind of like a coming together of the two different wavelengths of beer. And also we got the like Sobro with the Butchertown, kind of two neighborhoods that are kind of hot right now. So also two really good brewers. We'll see what they can do. I think it's going to be good. I'm here for it.
Are you guys at liberty to discuss any other collabs?
Oh yeah, I mean we've already announced a few of them. I know that I think the last one that we talked about was Fall City and Mile Wide coming together. We know that Monic and Country Boy are coming together. One interesting one is Akasha and West 6, just right down an alley from each other.
Yeah.
I
Billy
mean,
Goat Strut.
yeah, that's going to be fantastic to see. Kiros and Gallant Fox, and there's probably a couple more that we haven't talked about yet. I think, but yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see.
Oh my God, there's dessert. What is happening?
This is not dessert, sir.
Okay, this is like a fifth course.
This is a side item. Yes.
All right, hell yeah. You want to talk us through it?
So I made candied yams. I made chocolate porter. That doesn't come out yet.
Oh, that's dessert.
Yeah, it's chocolate portered candy yams with pecans and marshmallows. Whenever I would do Thanksgiving, my aunt and uncle would always make candied yams, and my uncle would basically fight you for like the half of the dish of candied yams.
Yeah.
So if you were able to get candied yams on Thanksgiving, it was almost a treat in itself.
They really like candied yams.
He loved them. He loved them, Uncle Mike. Yeah, he absolutely loved them.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, so it's just a chocolate porter candied yam with pecan and a marshmallow topping. There is actually a torch over there if you would like to torch the top of the mallows.
But not too close because it's plastic.
Yeah,
too.
it's plastic. I mean, I didn't necessarily plan this one out. You know what I mean? But like, yeah. John, you're doing a great job over there.
Thank you.
Yeah, just toasting it up.
Somebody saw that. Sure. There was a brief moment of inferno. All right. So let's get a little mellow. Oh, they did toast up quite nicely.
Oh,
there.
yeah. And normally you would just throw the marshmallows in the broil in the oven. But I figured I'd put the marshmallows on the side just in case nobody actually liked marshmallows.
And then you can get your ratio right, too.
Yeah.
Everybody likes a little butane torch.
Oh, hell yeah.
What is the dessert?
Ice cream.
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, there's
Okay.
more. There's more.
I also love candied yams, and this is an excellent example of the dish. This is great.
Thank you.
I was wondering why David was trying to wrap the show up.
I wasn't. I'm
Just trying to move on to the
Let's
next
go to
course.
Louisville news. Like, no, dude, we still got some food to go through.
Oh, my God. It's so good.
Dude,
Oh wow.
Oh, dude, they're growing.
I hope the mic is picking that up. You've also now lit yours on fire, and you're just letting it go.
It's the best way to do it.
Its thing.
If you love something, you gotta let it go.
It's what, like, yeah. I love fire. Oh yeah, man.
This thing rips.
It
Yeah,
does.
That's what it says on it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a kitchen tool.
That's incredibly good.
It's not a toy. It's a tool.
It's not a toy. It's a kitchen tool.
I feel like candied yams and candied sweet potatoes are a controversial like Southern staple.
Yeah, I don't like them, so I'm about to figure out if I do.
You're about to figure it out if
Yeah.
you do.
Sir.
Yeah.
I feel like this
Oh,
has to be
man.
the best possible version of this dish.
I mean, I'm not mad at it.
Because
Man.
you didn't even let Uncle Mike get any of these before you brought them.
Uncle Mike was willing to kill for these things. Some of these relatives are not at the next Thanksgiving. What do
Okay,
you
so
think?
that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really is good. It's a really good balance. And I got to be honest with you, I kind of like the marshmallows on the side
I
because
do
you
too.
can kind of get your own ratio right.
Yep.
Because I'm more usually in like the savory sweet potato yam category. But when you can kind of pick and choose your own, I think the fact that I toasted it myself makes me like
Mhm.
feel attached to the dish.
You're
So,
like, no, I gotta try that
Yeah.
marshmallow.
These are my
Michelin
marshmallows.
stars. Here I come.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
I'm waiting for you to tell me like these came out of a can. I'm just wrong. but-
No, sir. I definitely, peeled those, sliced them on a mandolin, mixed the butter and the porter syrup, baked them off, tossed them a bunch of times.
I'm just surprised that you'd ruin an instrument like that.
A mandolin. Yeah. Where'd all these culinary skills gonna go, Russ? You got any plans to totally do a restaurant with all this stuff? This is incredible. The beer syrup, you like doing menus, but
Yeah.
I would eat that menu all day long.
Yeah. No, it's on the agenda to do some food pop-ups,
Yeah.
of course. But yeah, when I was a kid, I actually wanted to go to culinary school.
Mhm.
I started working in restaurants at the age of 15. Within a year of me being in the service industry, I got a job at a restaurant and I started as a host. And I was like, I actually want to work as a prep cook because I want to go to culinary school.
Yeah.
So they threw me in the kitchen. They let me slice up a bunch of ribeyes and, portion out carrots.
yeah, it's the real work.
Yeah, and then they made me wash dishes every night, and it's always been something. It's in the back of my mind. Like, yeah, I would have loved to have been a chef or a glorified line cook, however you want to put it. But I chose a different path, and ultimately came back to food, of course. But I'd love to do some food pop-ups here in the near future. Obviously, I've created a bunch of little, hypothetical menus that are all sitting on my phone.
I thought you were going to say fanboys because you've definitely created 3 fanboys. And if
No.
you guys aren't, you also have the beer syrup company on all social media accounts too. So we'll obviously promote the shit out of any time that does happen. But I feel bad for everybody who is not having this food experience right now because this is a
Our
very
next
good food
episode is just going to be
experience.
John eating for 24 hours
Yeah.
straight.
I definitely sent a snapshot of the menu that I was making tonight to a couple people, and they were like, "Oh my god, dude, what are you doing?"
So this is a podcast.
They're like, "They're not expecting a 5-course meal." I'm like, "It's 6 with the cocktail." Okay, I love it.
The aperitif. We do have one more though.
Okay, do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, you do it.
Oh, I'll do it.
Yeah.
What are we doing? What now? Huh?
I don't know. Isn't there one more? Isn't it in the...
Oh, you mean one more course to the
Yeah.
dish? Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So, David, don't show that on camera. That's not that that's not the good stuff.
I'll put a big censor bar over it.
David, if you will, I've got some paper bowls. You can open up the big Pyrex dish with the red lid on it. And then scoop out a big helping. And then put a scoop of ice cream on top of it.
Ooh.
Wow.
All right. So I've got to ask you too, when you you made this whole menu,
Mm-hmm.
where do you start when you're coming up with a whole top to bottom experience like this? Do you be like, I want barbecue and then build around that? Or are you obviously you're building around your stuff that you're incorporating into it too with your syrups and stuff. But is there an ethos behind that?
I will say that
This is part of the psychological test too, by the way.
I knew that this was going to be something that's on a table surrounded by everybody. And, you don't necessarily have a full dining room table to execute a full dinner and all of that. So I wanted to do something that was small plates, shareable. So, a little side salad, a couple small sides, sliders, of course. And then from there, based off of, how I would conceptualize a food menu is how many people are you going to serve? And, what time of year is it exactly?
This all does feel very seasonally appropriate too, I must say.
And it's the tail end of summer. Ultimately, I chose some things I also can play my strengths to, like the candied yams. Those I wouldn't normally eat in the middle of summer, of course, unless you get me in line at Indy's Chicken. And then I'm like, yes, okay.
I'll eat anything that comes out of Indy's Chicken, honestly.
Spicy keel, spicy keel, some yams, a potato wedge. I'm good.
Hell yeah.
Maybe a glass of Big Red. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
But it really just boils down to the size of the group that you're working with. And this was just kind of approachable. It's easy to implement the syrup into these dishes, like making a vinaigrette. You can make vinaigrette with every single syrup known to man, of course. Making a barbecue sauce, flavoring a barbecue sauce is not that hard, But yeah, so whenever I thought about creating, or whenever I thought about this podcast and what we were going to do, I was like, well,
how can I not kill Michael? So for context, I think I probably got like 8 texts from Russ this week because I made a comment, 2 weeks ago. It's like, hey, I hear you're making food. Sounds great. I'm good with pretty much everything. Pine nuts will put me into the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And every couple days, I got a text from Russ. It was just like, what about pecans?
What about pepitos?
Pepitos. And I was like, no, it's all good. Like I'll eat everything. Like even shellfish, which I have an aversion to, I'll still have a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't, but I'll be fine. So it was just always really funny to get a text. It was like, oh, what's he asking about?
Stay within those pine nuts.
So that was the goal, was to not kill me. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mission accomplished. Hey, well, we haven't really seen what the final results of the Three Floyds barley wine and hot sauce combo we're going to do yet. So
I'm starting to feel it.
We'll reserve judgment on that.
Probably just eat a couple Tums and you'll be fine, man.
Or an Underberg,
Yeah. Drink 2 Underbergs and a Tums and you're good.
You've been in the game for a while too. Another question I would ask you, just being in and around the beer industry for so long, is where do you, and you've traveled a lot as well, so we'll put this in that context. Where do you see Louisville right now as a beer city in relationship to some of the bigger cities? Your Asheville's, your Chicago's, your anywhere out west, honestly, really. And if you've traveled around anywhere, kind of seeing some new beer markets emerging up under. How do you view the whole situation with Louisville and Kentucky beer right now in a broader context?
It's a really good question. I will say that with the explosion of the entire industry as a whole, where, I can remember where there were less than, 3,000 to 4,000 microbreweries listed, right? And now you go to a city and it's it almost feels like a European kind of thing where there's a brew pub in every neighborhood.
Yeah.
Whether or not that brew pub is, distributing or selling retail or whatever the case is, Louisville has been very supportive of the breweries that pop up. And real quick, the mason jar over there has, yes, perfect. My man.
Yours on it.
My man. I really think that you've seen breweries in Louisville expand into other neighborhoods, right? They have a satellite location in another city even.
Yeah.
So I think that over the last 10 years, the scene has really grown, and I think Louisville has embraced it. I say that, and I don't own a brewery. I haven't worked at a brewery in years. I've only been on the consumer side, and the side of buying your product and turning it into diabetes, Yeah. Shout out Wilford Brimley. But yeah, I think that in relation to other cities throughout the U.S., I kind of think we're just doing the same thing that every other city is doing, because there are so many options now and there's so many new styles of beer that pop up. If you would have told me in 1998 when I was crushing freaking oatmeal stouts and 100-degree heat in the middle of a fish parking lot at Deer Creek. If you would have told me milkshake IPAs were going to be a thing, I would have just looked at you in bewilderment.
Yeah.
Okay. But with all of that said, I think that we're doing a really good job of, supporting one another.
Yeah.
I don't really see, and once again, this is on the consumer side, I don't really see a whole lot of animosity between any of the brewers or between, fanboys of specific brands and so on and so forth. But yeah, the idea that, oh, that looks delicious.
Yeah, get it more.
But yeah, the idea that the craft beer scene as a whole
Icarus flew too close to the sun.
Trying to clean it up.
Here you go.
Sorry, my bad.
No worries. Yeah, I'm just I like, once again, I don't own a brewery. I haven't worked for a brewery in a long time, and I'm really just happy to see the growth. Well, I shouldn't say that I haven't worked for a brewery in a long time.
Sure.
I actually just, I did help some friends open up a brewery, and I worked as a bartender for them for a little while. But I definitely think that with the way the demand has gone and people's, preferred palates, if you will, like that's how you see breweries pivoting to do seltzers.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep up with consumer demand is hard enough. Identifying trends. I mean, I would hate to be the person responsible for pinning that down and
Innovation.
and gambling your company's livelihood on a specific style or a specific trend. But that's what the beer industry has always done.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw a lot. I mean, back in the day, everybody brewed, a pale ale, a stout, a porter, a brown, whatever, and now, you have like what Against the Grain did so many years ago, where they just started brewing a different beer every single time. Let's introduce something new. I mean, it's a way that you keep people coming back, but it's also a way that you entice people who are just getting into craft beer.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, yeah, who wants to drink the same beer day in and day out? I mean, I know people that do, and that's great. I'm one of them. I drink the
Same here.
yeah.
But you want diversity too.
Yeah. But like, as someone who loves craft beer, it's like, I'm always willing to try,
Yes.
a new beer, no matter what. Am I going to be able to sit down and drink 3 or 4 of them at the same time? No, definitely not.
Yeah. I'm not a flight guy.
No,
Not a flight guy.
No, and I'm definitely not a pour your flight guy either. Like, I'm sorry.
We should have put that in the quiz.
Yeah, sorry. If you come in and you ask for a flight, I'm already looking at you like you don't want to spend money here and actually drink all the beers. You just want to have a say that, yeah, you had a few of them.
Yeah.
You liked them.
Just pick one, bro.
Right.
Commit.
Exactly.
All right. Well, you guys are already digging in. Tell us what we got here.
So this is
This is the most amazing thing I put in my mouth.
I believe that, actually. This is my favorite dessert that I make. It is a bourbon barrel stout apple dump cake. I basically loved dump cake and cobbler as a kid. We would make it on Boy Scout outings all the time in a cast iron over the fire. It was a no-brainer. The first time I made it, it was absolutely delicious. It's basically chopped apples and bourbon barrel stout syrup, yellow cake mix, and then butter baked off, and then a scoop of vanilla ice cream. And then I made a bourbon barrel stout caramel sauce that you drizzle over top.
The sauce kicks it off, man. It's so good. Holy crap.
And dump cake is also one of those things that you can do so many different variations. It's almost silly. Peach and the bourbon barrel stout, pear and the cider with like fresh figs. I've made so many dump cakes, and there's a reason why I look like this.
That's kind of funny. Yeah, I'm going to be making some dump cakes after this podcast.
I'm so proud of you, Russ.
You have no idea. With so many family meals where I'm like, guys, I made dump cake. They're like, again?
No, dude. But that's like, that would be like the connecting theme that I would see like throughout this menu that you planned or whatever. before I'll even say that it's, delicious, the thing that unites it all is how simple it all is too.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like
absolutely.
it's
Anybody
so-
can make this food at home.
Yeah. But it's the
very
thought
easy.
that goes into it that really sets it apart from just your standard like fare that you get at a XYZ restaurant or whatever.
Right.
It all goes together like that. All kind of had a progression to it. The Underberry actually fit in pretty nicely as well, if I'm going to say. But kicking off with the cocktail as well. Yeah. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
well done, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like I feel like what was that menu with like the Liam Neeson or the chef or menu? The menu.
Yes.
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
menu.
we're all going to burn ourselves to death.
Now,
Is what I'm saying.
I will say, after having made this a million times over, the one thing that I never put in it was spent grain. And as I was making the crackers, and after I had already done away with the rest of the spent grain, I made the dump cake, and I was like, man, some of that probably would have done really well in the
I
crust
could
on
absolutely
top
see that.
of the dump cake.
Yeah.
And so the next time I go back to the drawing board and make a dump cake, I'll take spent grain. And I actually have gone to the brewery, got a bunch of spent grain, dehydrated it, of course, milled it down to flour to make, bread or whatever. But I also use the spent grain to do like no-bake chocolate cookies. I'll cut my oats by a third, and I'll implement a third of the spent grain in there. And, once again, it's just trial and error going through. And this is absolutely one of those things that I think little spent grain would have helped with.
And if that whole like flavor theory thing is like when it's like salty, sweet, savory, umami.
Umami, yeah.
But like the malt character is something that just it's like Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. Like the barley is like right in the middle of all those
Yeah.
things. It's a little umami. It's
Yeah.
it's not salty, but it's got something like that. It's a little sweet. It sets everything
it's
off.
savory too. I will say that after experimenting with making the syrups and playing with malt as well, whenever I have somebody who asks me like, what does it taste like? I'm like, I don't even like to explain it to people, because people get lost in the translation of what all these words mean until it hits their lips and they're
Maillard
like,
reaction.
oh, I get it. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. So, I obviously sell more syrup whenever I sample it. It's a no brainer.
Yeah.
But yeah, the flavor profile, like you said, it's a little bit of umami, but yeah, the sweetness from malt, it just can't be denied
No.
at all.
This is delicious, but I need a nap now.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all this food and,
Yeah,
and the thought
Russ,
and effort
this
that
is
went into it.
amazing.
It's
Yeah,
been
absolutely.
a great evening. Before we let you go, is there anything coming up that you want people to know about?
Man.
What do you got to plug?
Well,
Can you order bottles and have them shipped? That's what actually my last question.
yeah, absolutely. So on the website, which is really hard to forget, it's thebeersyrupcompany.com. If you're local in Louisville, you can order and it's free delivery. I'll actually show up on your doorstep, drop a box.
In the costume.
No promises.
No promises.
No promises. I probably should put an option on there to have it delivered by Rusty the Brew Bear for sure.
Yeah.
Extra little charge, but you can order it on Amazon Prime as well. Like you said, you can pick it up at the Louisville Visitor Center. I don't necessarily have any huge events coming up. I've got a big coffee festival in Cincinnati, October 21st, 22nd. I believe that's that weekend. I am also going to be doing the big Fête de Noël at Paristown. So
Amazing event.
5 weeks in a row, you'll have all the holiday chalets out there starting on Black Friday, of course. And so we'll be out there 5 consecutive weeks. I was really trying to get down to the Honey Bun Festival
I saw that.
that's here in Kentucky, which
It's like Winchester or something, right?
Somewhere down there.
London.
Yeah. So
Did Oliver Anthony play at that?
No,
That was the Fudge Rat Festival.
No. Tickets were way too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, So I was really trying to get down to the Honey Bun Festival. I was trying to coordinate with them to give me some plain honey buns, and I was going to make a bourbon barrel stout icing that went on top of them, of course. And that was, we're still working on it. It might happen. They might call me back and say, hey, yeah, absolutely. This year for sure. But if not, next year. The only other big thing is I will say, I was told to bring something special here to share something that I enjoy. And everything. Well, I'm getting out of town in the next week or two, and I'm going to go catch some live music. And Drew Johnson and all those kids.
No, you're going to see Fish.
Yeah. So I did.
That's when the really special syrup comes out.
I actually made a Sammy Smith oatmeal stout syrup, and I made coffees on lot for that, and it was absolutely delicious. If that beer wasn't so expensive, I'd make syrup out of it every day. But yeah, I was going to bring in a little box that had all my ticket stubs. I know Drew did that. I think he had a baseball card folder of all of his ticket stubs. I actually just could not find my box of ticket stubs. But in that box, it's somewhere in my house. In that box is the ticket stub for the very first concert where I actually had a craft beer.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was sick. I was 21.
Yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I was definitely 16 years old, and I was drinking New Belgium Fat Tire in the parking lot of Deer Creek. This was in 98 too.
Yep.
And I shared that beer with a good friend of mine, Rhodey, who's guitarist for Tyler Lance Walker Gill here in Louisville.
Oh, yeah. I love that guy.
Yeah. And that's actually what kind of started me on the whole love for craft beer. So I was drinking Sammy Smith oatmeal stouts, Tadcaster Porters, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, Fat Tire, Bass, Harp, Guinness, whatever. But it was all those West Coast beers that got trucked into, concerts. And that's kind of what set me on the right path,
that's
so
awesome.
to speak. That's where I had my first craft beer, was at a concert. And like I said, I was going to bring in that box of all my ticket stubs and show you that ticket stub, but I cannot find that box.
You're going to find it one day, Russ.
That's all right.
I know. It's probably buried in the room that has all my concert posters in it.
I'm going to find a change of clothes so I can stop sweating.
David, what do you got?
I'm going to plug Derby City Market over on Barrett Avenue. Justin, the owner over there, has an incredible collection of mid-century modern furniture, knickknacks, shirts, and they're just adding new stuff every day. If you're ever strolling down that Barrett Avenue corridor, there's a ton of new businesses over there. But I always like stopping in there. He's got really quirky stuff, all around good dude. We'll talk to you for at least a half an hour if you engage him. So pop in, say hi.
Yeah.
John.
I'm just going to plug a good old American Cascade hops. Especially after our trip to White Labs and even talking about what you're just talking about, how we're kind of going back to the stuff that started it all. That's a lot of what I've been thinking about lately. And it's a trend we've been seeing in the shop here, but we've shoved everything and anything we can into beer these days. We've turned that beer into syrup. We've put it on delicious food and turned it into an immaculate menu. And the best beer to go with that to me is just simple beer. I like taking the stuff back to simplicity. Chico yeast, Cascade hops. God bless America.
Hell yeah, brother. I'm going to plug Stoicism. I don't know. Sure. I don't know. It's at the risk of sounding like a freshman philosophy student in college, just sometimes going back to some of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is really just, it's a good reflection point, reminding yourself that you can't control anything that's going on in your life, but you can control how you react to it. So that's always really nice to kind of keep in mind. So yeah, go read some, Marcus Aurelius tonight. It's easy. Go do it.
How many times have you thought about the Roman Empire this week?
So many times. I think about the Roman Empire every day.
Me too.
Literally every day. Something will pop up all the time. And because I said Roman Empire, thanks everybody.